Certainly. Counselor Wheeler.
Here.
Counselor Forgy.
Here.
Conley.
Sorry, what was?
Counselor Conley.
Here.
Counselor Disorder.
Here.
Counselor Elmer.
Here.
Chairperson Wheeler, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have no public hearing this evening. We'll, oh, excuse me, I skipped by. We do have an approval of minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of June 17th, 2020?
So moved.
So moved. 4G. Second.
Moved by 4G. I didn't hear who the second was by.
Elmer?
Second by Elmer. Is there discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, they look good to me. All those in favor, raise your hand. I realized actually I can't see everyone here, but I believe that was unanimous positive. So now we move into motions, orders, and resolutions. Upon recommendation of Mayor Wiedegardner, I move that it be ordered that the sum of $148,000 be transferred from FY20 Public Works and Energy Department accounts as seen in the packet to the following FY20 legal accounts. Is there a second?
Second, Disorder.
Second by Disorder. Is there discussion?
Wait a minute.
So in general, these end-of-year transfers they're somewhat routine, but very important. Councillor Forgy.
I just wonder if Liz Gilman could give us just an overview, very brief, please. I know it's business, but why were we short in certain line items? What were the reasons?
Yeah, absolutely. Director Gilman.
So are you speaking to the motion to legal right now, or?
Yeah, we're starting with legal.
Okay, so we'll do it one at a time. There was all sorts of ongoing litigation even before Mayor Wiedegardner took office. And so we've had ongoing litigation, both labor relations and with residents and with private companies. And we are scheduling an executive session to go through them with you all. It's not something that, because they are legal, we can't, and litigation, we can't go into them in public session. But the point being is this has been a really unusual year, but we haven't been budgeting enough in legal for being a city and being as litigious as people are now, whether they're companies, whether they're residents and employees. So we want to do some professional development regarding employee relations, to try and better control those costs with department heads and managers. But other ones we don't necessarily have much control over if a resident wants to raise an issue in which we have to involve in legal. So nobody liked to see this much, believe you me. I did obtain a summary that you'll go over in executive session from our main attorney, Sullivan and Hayes, that summarized the cost by case, and I think you'll find it interesting. Then I think you get a better feel for what these things cost when we get into these matters. no, and it is high. And one other thing I'd like to say on all these transfers, because some people feel when we're taking away from somebody from, like, for example, on veterans benefits. I check with each department and say, are you done paying your bills? Will you have extra before I even do this? So I'm not taking away from any other bill that needs to be paid.
Thanks for the overview, Director Gilman. Councilor Forgy, did you have a follow-up? Oh,
Muted.
Yeah. Still muted, Councilor Forgy.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. You mentioned that we would be in executive session so we could
Yes.
actually experience what these costs and everything else are. My question is, we are paying for the 2020 overage in legal. Are these issues settled, or will they also be part of the legal line item as we move into, we are in the next fiscal year, but will they hit next fiscal year's budget?
Good question. There are some that are ongoing, so it will be good that you get to hear about all these. And yes, some are settled.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, that was a great overview. Councilor Elmer?
Well, can you explain, we're taking money out of, in this case, Public Works and energy accounts. Does that money get reimbursed? Does that get refilled?
I think I can answer this one. So this only happens at the end of the year, and there's specific, we only have a few weeks in which we can do it. And it's, like Director Gilman said, she checks in with the departments, and if they are under budget on certain line items, then those are opportunities to cover certain other line items that may have gone over. So does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does for that, but I think because there is some sensitivity about the veterans benefits, when we get to that, I think we need a better explanation of why.
Sure. Yeah, we'll talk about that one specifically shortly. Anything else on this one, on the transfer from DPW to legal? And because of the way that my screen is, Councilor DeSorger, I can't actually see yours. So if you have a question, you should probably type it into the chat. But seeing no further questions on this one, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. Moving down the page. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $50,000 be transferred from FY20 police, parking, and dispatch department accounts as follows: police training overtime, $30,000; parking part-time wages, $15,000; dispatch part-time wages, $10,000, for a total of $55,000 to the following FY20 fire department accounts: fire overtime, $18,000; fire vehicle maintenance, $21,000; fire medical supplies, $16,000, for a total of $55,000. Is there a second?
Second, DeSorger.
Seconded by Councilor DeSorger. Is there discussion? Director Gilman, anything you want to add to this one?
The fire department, it isn't, what you're seeing is not COVID related. In fact, I think many of you know that there was a weekend fire, a weekend fire where overtime would have been hit again recently. And unexpected vehicle maintenance and medical supplies. The chief did want originally, when constructing the FY20 budget, he wanted more from the ambulance revolving fund and he wanted more in overtime. And turns out the chief was right. What can I say? We were hoping to cover it, and so now, we're looking to, and, the chief can speak better to
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Director Gilman. I forgot actually that Chief Strand is on the line. So hopefully the vehicle repairs will be addressed somewhat by the capital purchases we're going to make. But Chief Strand, if you can hear me, would you like to corroborate what Director Gilman said?
Sure. So the biggest overages in the department budget, and Councilor, I think you would remember back when I was presenting the budget from last year that I anticipated we were going to be over in many categories, and we are. However, like our overtime category, I was anticipating being around $180,000 because of contractual issues, and we were budgeted at 120. By working some things out, I was over. We spent $150,000 on overtime, which was $30,000 less than I thought it was. I tried doing the best I could within the budget. January 1st, we put a spending freeze. I haven't lifted it even going into this budget. And so we had some challenges. The overtime was specifically because of new contract that went through that spells out minimum staffing and minimum manning, where we have a minimum of 5 on a shift. That comes at a cost. And that's where the overtime is. The other part that really hit us hard was the ambulance revenue account is set up to pay for that part of the program within the fire department. And it's very successful. And most of the time, this was the first year that wasn't the case. And the reason why it wasn't the case is because we bought a used ambulance out of that account for $32,500. There's a spending cap of $50,000 on it. When you take $32,500 out of that, it doesn't allow you to spend the money that I needed to spend. And so for one category, EMS equipment went over specifically because of that, because we just didn't have the spending cap. We had the money, we just didn't have the authorization to spend beyond that. And so when I went back to try to get that back to take care of these accounts, it turns out there's a deadline, and Liz could better explain it than I could, but we would have had to submit to you folks in April to go back and take money out of that account. I didn't know that, and so that's where the shortcomings have come up with.
Okay, thanks for the overview. Question from Councilor DeSorger.
Thank you, Chief. I just wanted to know, are you fully staffed now?
Great question. We are fully staffed according to the budget. Which means that for the last 3 to 4 years, we are fully staffed for what I requested. We are still down firefighters. We are still down a deputy chief. We were able to replace under the mayor. We were able to put a captain in, but not quite the deputy chief. So we've been able to add a staff member on days, but we are still down firemen that we have been down for a long time. However, with that said, like I said, the goal has been since I was day one as chief was to increase our minimum staffing. Having a certain amount of people on the trucks ready to go, and that number was 5. And we've been able to accomplish that through aggressive negotiations. However, that did come at a cost, and that's why the overtime is so high. And there was a great question asked about the overtime, whether or not it would be cheaper to hire people than the overtime. The answer to that, right now, it is not. The overtime is the cheaper method than hiring the people. Obviously, I would love more staff, but especially with uncertain climate that we're running into budget, this is the best way to maintain staffing for the fire department.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Forgy, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Chief Strand, I wonder if you could tell me, in an ideal situation, is your expectation that any of the overtime costs that are accrued with an ambulance run would be absorbed by that special revenue fund?
That's a great question, and the majority of the time that is the case. Again, though, this year, because we did not raise this past year, the year that we just left, because the cap was not raised, because we spent the $32,500 on the ambulance, that left little room to play, and normally that money would be absorbed out of that account.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions for the chief? Or other discussion items on this transfer? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? It passes unanimously. Moving to the next page, if my computer will let me, I move that it be ordered that the sum of $15,780 be transferred from FY20 Energy Department account 01001970.521111 MS Electric to the FY20 Workers' Comp account 01009120.5740. Is there a second?
Second, Disorder.
Seconded by Councilor Disorder. Is there discussion? This one seems fairly straightforward. We had a workers' comp adjustment of $17,000, and it looks like we can transfer it from energy. Question from Councilor Forgy.
About the fund itself, maybe Director Gilman can help with the question. Workers' comp, did we have that many claims on workers' comp this year, or were we underfunded?
So we don't have our own fund. This is our premium that we pay to our
Right,
insurance
okay.
company. And so we have an audit each year of the wages. Basically, our wages got a lot higher than the last time they were here, and so they had to do an adjustment. The workers' comp is a calculation based upon the wages times the risk category, the type of worker you are, equals a premium amount. And if the wages go up, so does your premium. And they generally find that during this audit, which happens like 7 or 8 months after we do the budget.
So not the best timing, but that's how these things work. And obviously, when a contract is settled, that can leave things open for an adjustment.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this transfer? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Passes unanimously. One more. I move that it be ordered that the sum of $14,275 be transferred from the following FY20 accounts: Veterans Ordinary Benefits $8,000, Natural Gas Green River $6,275 for a total of $14,275 to the following FY20 accounts: Tax Title Legal $12,000, Tax Title Filings $2,000, Executive Administrative Salaries $275 for a total of $14,275.
Second, 4G.
Seconded by Councilor Forgy. Is there discussion? Councilor Elmer, did you have a question?
I did. Well, first a comment. The transferring from veterans benefits to administrative salaries is just not a smart political move. It's just the kind of thing that's going to blow up on Facebook and
Veterans benefit has had extra and has been a source for transfers, but believe you me, Director Tim makes sure his budget is adequate. So he requested in his 21 budget what he needs. This doesn't detract from his FY21 budget. It is just taking care of issues we have in the prior now FY20 budget.
Can I follow up?
Sure.
So the answer to the Facebook outrage is that this money was left over.
Yeah.
From this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's a hard one to budget because people come on and off all the time, just like the health insurance, but Tim makes sure he's adequately budgeted to meet the needs.
Thank you.
Okay, now Councilor Forgy, did you have a question?
Yes, I think all of the counselors received some correspondence from a voter, taxpayer in Greenfield, concerning how this does not look. And he picked up the information on Facebook. Once again, it's a matter of people discussing something that they really haven't researched. So this is what I want to say publicly to everybody out there. If you go into Mass General Law, Chapter 115, it is a whole section on how we in the Commonwealth take care of indigent and needy veterans, what's available to them and what our responsibility is. Every year, we get to vote on an appropriation for veterans for ordinary benefits, which would considered to be financial resources for food and housing. There used to be, I don't know if there still is, a fuel line item for fuel assistance. We put up the appropriation. Director Gilman, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I do believe that the state reimburses the city of Greenfield a percentage of what we appropriate. It doesn't come in the same year. It's always a year after that it comes in.
That is correct. And
Okay. And it is exactly as was previously identified, which is that if there is a bottom line in your budget and you have met all your obligations for the year and there's something left, that's going to close out to general funds. The Department of Revenue is going to make us do that.
Yep.
So this is just an end of year transfer. It does not take anything away from the veterans. And it is the use of money so that we really don't have to have Department of Revenue take money out of our free cash once we submit that figure. But I want to reassure all the veterans and all the voters in Greenfield that our veterans are well cared for. And in addition to what we do on a local level, there are federal groups as well. And there's always veterans outreach pieces. So, and there's placement by our Veterans Office and everything else, which I think they do a wonderful job. And I think Director Gilman's right. Tim knows his stuff. So please don't believe everything you read on Facebook. I just wish people would just go a step further and research a little bit so that these rumors and this hostility doesn't get started. And if it does, reach out to us as counselors. Let us know what's on your mind so we can, explore and get back to you and answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Forgy. That was so important and so true of everything in town government. And I try to remember myself that before getting upset, just talk to the person, reach out. These days it's a phone call, but face to face is even better. Is there anything further on this transfer? Okay, I don't see any. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. That's, I believe, it for our motions, orders, and resolutions. We don't have any items for discussion unless councilors have something. Other business, City Council first reading, repurpose $180,000 from the Maple Brook Culvert to I&I for evaluation and repairs. Our next meeting is Tuesday, August 18th. That's Tuesday. This will be our new schedule of meeting a day before full council meets. It will be, I believe, at 5:30 via WebEx. Councilor Forgy.
Is it too late to bring up something under new business?
Probably not. What is it?
Okay. I would like to ask the following questions. I don't need the answers right now, but I'm thinking about the crisis that we're finding ourselves in, especially in regard to tax title and people being unable to afford paying their taxes at this point. I would like to know how many demands have been issued. I'd like to know how many tax title cases we have right now. How much does it cost us to prosecute those cases? I'm not sure that's the right word. And I'd also like to know about our assessment of town property. I'd like to have an overview from the Board of Assessors to tell us where we are, where we're going, what's high in this town, what's low in this town. I'm very frustrated because it seems like those answers are not obvious. So I wonder if we couldn't make a request to different departments to maybe join our next Ways and Means Committee to help us understand our revenue pieces a little bit more.
Thank you, Councilor Forgy. So, all right, there's a lot there. I'm going to start from the back because I remember it was the left. So I would say it would be appropriate to put on the committee chair's agenda for August a potential invitation to the probably Kimberly Mew, but some representative from the assessors. I think Ms. Mew generally knows the most about it. And we should be able to, provided we don't have too much on the agenda, I think we could definitely accommodate that. And then as far as the tax title, those sound like questions for Kelly Varner, but maybe Clerk Scott can correct me if Clerk, do you have a better idea? Is Ms. Varner the best person to talk to about those issues?
So if you wouldn't mind, I would defer to Liz. I believe Kelly, but I would defer to Liz.
Yes, absolutely. Director Gilman, of course.
Right. So I will get exact numbers from Kelly, but one of the things I was going to talk to at council meeting was I was going to give you an update on revenue.
Thank you.
And I was going to talk about how the tax collections went for last year. So we do. So anyway, I think some of that will be answered, but I can get the exact numbers of what it costs per filing for tax title, because Kelly does know all that, and how many properties are currently in tax title. and tax foreclosure as well, because after a certain amount of time, it goes from tax title to tax
Right.
foreclosure.
Do you, a question? Can I ask
Yeah.
a
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you. Do you know how many demands have gone out?
They have,
Do you know how many?
oh, no, I can't tell you how many. I looked at how much slower were the collections this year than last year. That's what I looked
Okay.
at. And so I wanted to see, and first of all, the Department of Revenue views it as collectible because it goes to tax title. But it becomes a cash because you aren't collecting it at the normal speed. But it was slower. It was about, I would say it was about $530,000 slower than the prior year. And
Thank you.
yeah, but the demands did go out. People are still paying. I don't know if folks forgot about June 29th. We did send out reminders. But we'll see. I think the best indication will be the August 1 bills to see if we see a repeat.
Okay.
And so, because I'm anticipating this cash flow issue, I have asked the retirement board. I actually did this in the spring saying I might do this. I am going to do this. I asked them if we could spread out our payments more because of cash flow issues, and they agreed. So we're trying to anticipate this happening.
Follow-up question, Councilor Forgy?
I think it was Councilor DeSorga. I'm all set, thank you.
You're all set. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else have a question for? All right. So it sounds like we may invite Kimberly Mew to the next meeting, and Director Gilman will have some updates at some point. Now's a good time, I think, to be talking about assessments and tax title since we're past the budget season. All right. Anything else?
Councilor Wheeler, I think Ginny DeSorgo.
Oh yeah, Councilor DeSorger. Couldn't see you there.
I just had a comment that I wanted to echo what Councilor Forgy said. I think one of the most important things that we need to do is to make sure to see where we are in the assessing process. That was something that was going to be looked at before. We all know that this is a very tough financial year for many, many people, but that had been promised to have been done, particularly with some of the commercial, but also some of the other one, and that really could help us in the long run. And so I think if we were asking Kimberly Mew to be coming, just to give her that heads up that that's actually information that we wanted. That's all. And thank you for bringing those questions up, Councilor.
Sure. So it's a update on the commercial reval, partial commercial reval, and kind of a status update on the residential as well. We will make that request. Okay. Seeing no other business, I'll hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved. 4G.
Second disorder.
Moved by Councilor Forgy, seconded by Councilor DeSorger. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. This meeting is adjourned at 6:36.